How are we to reconcile hating evil with not resisting an evil person who does the evil deeds that we are to despise? Dear friends, I need your cooperation on this video, and I'll tell you why. My own nephew, a few days ago, was returning from the gym and was attacked by two illegal aliens from Africa who stabbed him in the leg first, and then they threw him on the ground and sliced his forehead with a little cutter until finally he released his wallet and his phone. And this is not an unusual occurrence in Milano, but when justice hits close to home, boy, there is something that rises inside. You know, this anger, this grief, this desire for immediate justice. And I tell you that my first reaction was not calm and definitely was not Christian-like, because I'm so tired of seeing crime going unpunished because jails are full, magistrates and judges do not want to persecute, and we're told that even illegal need some form of income, poor guys, and these are typical excuses that we hear. However, we do witness that in countries where justice is certain and is administered quickly, these sort of crimes are kept at bay. So, before I go back to some scriptures trying to make sense of what we ought to do as believers, let me know your point of view down below in the comment, please, and watch the video all the way to the end. So, how do we reconcile then an eye for an eye with turning the other cheek? Let's read Matthew 5:38-39. It says, "You have heard that it was said, eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other cheek also." First of all, we got to put things in context. This is part of the Sermon on the Mount, which starts in this chapter, chapter 5. It goes all the way to chapter 7 of Matthew. And Jesus is addressing Jewish leadership as well as his apostle, and uses hyperboles to drive the point. What is your internal state of mind? That's where he wants to get it. And he's stretching them, and he's stretching us also by stretching the way we think normally. And that is why he's saying that you can kill someone with words or commit adultery in your mind, etc., etc. But in this particular case, he's contrasting the Old Testament rule with the New Testament thinking. The reason we have an eye for an eye in Exodus, and by the way, this was actually part of the Hammurabi Code, was an ancient Babylonian legal code, is because it was meant to ensure that punishment should match the crime with the equal retaliation, equal to the harm that was done and not greater. And then comes a weird phrase in the middle of these two, says, do not resist an evil person. Why? If I look at Psalm 97:10, it says, "O you who love the Lord, hate evil." Proverbs 8:13 says, to fear the Lord is to hate evil. And even in Romans 12:9, Paul tells us to abhor what is evil. Now, abhor means to find repugnant, to hate, to loathe, to be disgusted with. And so then, how are we to reconcile hating evil with not resisting an evil person who does the evil deeds that we are to despise? Again, things are to be taken in context. And Jesus was alluding to the Romans, who were the evil rulers during that time. And thus he's encouraging the Jews not to resist them unless they're going to be easily overpowered. And that is why he suggested they give an extra tunic or go the extra miles, still referring to the Roman soldiers. And then he goes on to say that if anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn them the other also. And have you caught the detail? The right cheek. Think about it. Most people are right-handed. And thus, if I had to strike the right cheek, it means that I have to hit the person with the back of my hand. And this gesture was meant to diminish or belittle, to deem someone beneath you. And unlike an open palm slap, which can occur between equals, a backhand historically symbolized a master discipling a slave or an inferior. Let's look at one more example. Jesus, when he was standing before the high priest, was slapped by a guard because of what he said, the way he answered to the high priest. And then he replied, "If I said something wrong," Jesus replied, "testify as to what is wrong. But if I spoke the truth, why did you strike me? So why did he not show the other cheek? Because in Matthew 5, Jesus was addressing personal retaliation, not the surrender of truth or the endorsement of abuse. And this means don't seek revenge. It does not mean accept lies, injustice, or corruption as normal. No, here Jesus is not retaliating, but in a powerful way, he is exposing injustice with truth. Jesus is not saying, how dare did you hit me? No, he's saying, if there is an error, expose it. But if there is truth, respect it. How cool is that? Can you see how in doing so, Jesus is revealing the illegitimacy of the trial and the hypocrisy of religious power and the fact that violence is being used because truth has not rebuttal? Just awesome. So going back to my original question, in a perfect world, there will be only love and nothing to hate. But in a fallen world like ours, loving rightly also means hating what destroys. And Paul says this in Hebrews 1:9. You have loved righteousness and hated wickedness. Yet, this is the tension of the Christian life. I'm called to hate evil, but I'm not called to take vengeance into my own hands. Why? Because justice and vengeance belong to the Lord. And sometimes this is the hardest lesson, is the waiting for God's justice when our emotion want it right now and want it big. So guys and gals, this is one more lesson for me to learn. Love you and catch you next time. Ciao.